I had been with Amanda for 2 years, and I thought our relationship was unbreakable. She was the woman I pictured myself growing old, with the one whose smile made even my worst days better. So when she suddenly told me she wanted a break, because she doubted my fidelity, my world collapsed. I had never been anything but loyal to her, yet her eyes were cold with suspicion. Nothing could have prepared me for what happened 5 weeks later when she called me out of nowhere to tell me she was pregnant. Before I get into the unbelievable twist in this story, let me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button if you want to hear more true stories like this one. Looking back, I still remember the night I first met Amanda like it was yesterday. It was at my buddy Marcus's birthday party, a small gathering at his downtown apartment. I was 25 at the time, fresh out of graduate school, and finally settling into a decent job in marketing. Amanda walked in late, apologizing with that gentle laugh that would soon become my favorite sound in the world. She was 24, working as a kindergarten teacher, and had the most captivating brown eyes I had ever seen. "Nicholas, this is Amanda Marcus," introduced us. "Amanda Nicholas is the friend I told you about who just moved back to town." We clicked immediately. The conversation flowed effortlessly as we discovered our shared love for obscure indie films, hiking, and authentic Mexican food. By the end of the night, I had her number, and the next day I texted her asking if she wanted to grab coffee that weekend. Our first date turned into a 6-hour adventure. We started at a local cafe, moved on to an art exhibition, neither of us particularly understood but had fun critiquing, and ended up at a small Italian restaurant where we shared a bottle of wine and our life stories. I told her about my childhood in Seattle, my parents' divorce when I was 12, and my passion for photography that I pursued alongside my marketing career. She told me about growing up in a small town in Oregon, her close-knit family, and her dream of one day opening her own preschool. The following months were like living in a dream. We texted constantly throughout the day, spent most evenings together, and every weekend was a new adventure. 6 months in, I introduced her to my mom during her visit to town. And Amanda invited me to her family's Thanksgiving dinner. Everyone could see how perfect we were together. My friends would tease me about how quickly I had fallen, but I did not care. I knew what we had was real. Our first year together was pure bliss. We rarely argued, and when we did, we always resolved it through open communication. I felt completely secure and trusted her without question. She had the key to my apartment, knew my phone password, and I had nothing to hide. I thought she felt the same way. But around 8 months before everything fell apart, I started noticing subtle changes in Amanda's behavior. It began with small things. She would get irritated more easily, especially when I would work late. She started checking my phone when she thought I was not looking, scrolling through my texts and emails with a furrowed brow. "Is everything okay?" I asked one night after catching her looking through my Instagram messages. "Yeah, just curious who you have been talking to," she replied with a forced smile that did not reach her eyes. Her questions became more frequent. Where was I going? Who was I meeting? Why was I home late? At first I found it endearing that she cared so much about my whereabouts, but gradually it started feeling suffocating. Still, I wanted to reassure her, so I made sure to always let her know my plans, introduced her to all my friends, and kept my phone unlocked and available for her to check whenever she wanted. "You know you can trust me, right?" I would ask her. Of course, she would say, but the suspicion in her eyes told a different story. About 3 months before our breakup, Amanda started going out more frequently with a group of friends I had never met. She would come home late sometimes, smelling of alcohol and cigarettes, despite telling me she was just having dinner with friends. Whenever I asked about these new friends, she would give vague answers and quickly change the subject. I also noticed her becoming more secretive with her phone. She had always been open with her device before, but suddenly she was turning it face down when I was around and taking it with her, even for brief trips to the bathroom. Several times I caught her smiling at text messages, but when I asked who they were from, she would say, "Just a colleague or group chat stuff." "Why do not you introduce me to your new friends?" I asked one evening as she was getting ready to go out. "They are just work colleagues, Nicholas." "It would be boring for you," she replied, applying her lipstick, without looking at me. "I would not mind. I would like to meet the people you have been spending so much time with lately." "Maybe another time," she said dismissively, grabbing her purse and heading out the door. Despite the growing unease in my stomach, I tried to be understanding. I told myself that everyone needs space and independence in a relationship. Maybe I was being too clingy, too suspicious. The irony of that thought would not hit me until much later. The turning point came about a month before our breakup. I was at work when my colleague Jessica called in sick. We had been working on an important presentation together, and she needed some files I had on my laptop. Since I could not email them from the office network due to security protocols, I told her to call my personal phone later so we could figure out how to get her the files. That evening, Amanda and I were having dinner at my place when my phone rang. It was Jessica. I excused myself to take the call, explaining the situation to Jessica, while sending her the files via a personal email. The call lasted maybe 5 minutes. When I returned to the table, Amanda was fuming. "Who is Jessica?" she demanded, her voice cold. "She is a colleague. I told you about her before. We are working on the Miller account together." I explained calmly. "Why is she calling you at 8 at night? And why did you have to leave the room to talk to her? I did not want to disturb our dinner." "It was a work thing, Amanda. She needed some files for tomorrow's presentation." "Sure, files," she scoffed. "You think I am stupid, Nicholas? I saw the way you smiled when you saw her name on your phone." The argument escalated quickly, no matter what I said. Amanda was convinced that Jessica and I were having an affair. She demanded to see all our text exchanges, which I showed her willingly. But even the innocent work-related messages were in her mind, filled with subtext and flirtation. "There is nothing going on between Jessica and me. She is married with 2 kids. For God's sake," I protested. "That does not stop most men." Amanda spat back. We argued until past midnight, with Amanda eventually storming out of my apartment in tears. I spent the night calling and texting her, but she ignored me. The next morning, she finally responded with a brief message: "I need some space to think." I gave her the space she requested, limiting my messages to just checking if she was okay. 3 days later, she agreed to meet and talk. I thought we would resolve things, clear up the misunderstanding, and move forward. I could not have been more wrong. We met at our favorite park, sitting on the bench where we had spent countless summer evenings watching the sunset. But that day, the sky was overcast, mirroring the heaviness between us. "I think we need to take a break, Amanda," said her voice steady but distant. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. "A break? What do you mean I need time to think, Nicholas? I do not trust you anymore." "But I have not done anything," I protested, my voice cracking. "You can check my phone, my emails, anything. There is no one else, Amanda. There has never been anyone else. It is not just about your colleague. It is about how secretive you have become, how you are always working late, how you get defensive when I ask questions." Her accusations felt like they were coming from an alternate reality. If anything, she was the one who had become secretive, not me. But in that moment, I was too shocked and hurt to point this out effectively. "I love you," I said, feeling tears well up in my eyes. "Please do not do this. I need this, Nicholas. Just give me some time." Her eyes were dry, her resolve unwavering. I walked her back to her car, feeling hollow and betrayed. As I watched her drive away, I had no idea that this was just the beginning of a nightmare that would change my life forever. The next 3 weeks were pure agony. I called and texted Amanda regularly during the first week, but her responses were brief and impersonal. By the second week, I had reduced my communication to every few days, respecting her request for space, but still letting her know I was thinking of her. By the third week, I was barely hearing from her at all. I threw myself into work, staying late at the office, not because I was secretly meeting anyone, but because going home to my empty apartment was too painful. My friends, concerned about my deteriorating state, finally dragged me out for drinks on a Friday night. Jake, Tim, and I were at our regular bar, with me nursing my second beer, while they were already on their fourth round. I had barely spoken all night, lost in my thoughts about Amanda. "Earth to Nicholas," Jake said, waving his hand in front of my face. "You have got to snap out of this, man." How am I supposed to snap out of it when I do not even know what happened? Everything was fine, and then suddenly she does not trust me. Tim and Jake exchanged glances, a silent communication that did not go unnoticed. "What?" I asked. "What are you two not telling me?" Tim sighed. "Look, we did not want to make things worse, but what I saw Amanda last weekend," Jake finally said. "She was at Riverside Mall, with some guy." My heart dropped. "What do you mean with some guy? Like a friend?" Jake looked uncomfortable. "They were holding hands, Nicholas. I am sorry, but it did not look friendly. I did not want to believe it. Maybe Jake was mistaken. Maybe it was her brother or a cousin. But deep down, a part of me knew. The signs had been there all along, I just had not wanted to see them. The revelation sent me into an even deeper spiral. I stopped reaching out to Amanda completely, trying to protect what was left of my dignity. But the questions kept spinning in my mind. Who was this guy? How long had it been going on? Was this the real reason she wanted a break? Then, about 4 weeks after our breakup, fate intervened in the strangest way. I was at Lighthouse Cafe, a small coffee shop I had purposely been avoiding because it used to be our place. But that morning, desperate for their signature cold brew, I decided to risk it. As I waited for my order, a familiar voice called my name. It was Sarah, Amanda's closest friend since college. My first instinct was to pretend I had not heard her, but before I could escape, she was already at my side. "Nicholas, it is so good to see you," she said, giving me a quick hug. "How have you been?" "I am fine," I lied. "Just busy with work." Sarah nodded sympathetically. "Yeah, Amanda mentioned you have been working a lot lately." The casual mention of Amanda's name stung, but it also piqued my curiosity. "You have seen Amanda recently?" "Of course. We had brunch just last weekend. She brought her new boyfriend along, Jason. Kind of awkward, to be honest." "I mean, it is so soon after you guys." She trailed off suddenly, looking mortified. "Oh my God. You did not know, did you? She told me you two broke up weeks ago." "We did." I confirmed, my voice hollow. "She wanted a break about 4 weeks ago." Sarah looked confused. "But she has been seeing Jason for at least 2 months. She introduced him to me 6 weeks ago as her new boyfriend." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. 2 months. 6 weeks. That meant Amanda had been seeing this Jason while we were still together. While she was accusing me of cheating. While I was bending over backward to prove my fidelity. I thanked Sarah for her honesty, grabbed my coffee, and left in a daze. Once in my car, I did something I had refused to do until then. I checked Amanda's social media accounts. We were still connected on all platforms, though we had not interacted since the breakup. What I found confirmed my worst fears. Though Amanda had been careful not to post any couple photos recently, when I scrolled back through her Instagram, I found multiple group pictures from 2 to 3 months ago, where the same guy appeared repeatedly. In one photo from a dinner party 2 months before our breakup, I noticed Amanda sitting unusually close to a tall, dark-haired man. In another from a hike, the same man had his arm casually draped over her shoulders. The captions never mentioned him specifically, always referencing the whole group, but now I could see what had been hiding in plain sight. Through some social media detective work, I confirmed this was indeed Jason, a former classmate from Amanda's college days who had recently moved back to town. The betrayal cut deep. Not only had Amanda cheated on me, but she had also gaslit me into believing I was the unfaithful one. All her accusations, her sudden distrust, her invasive questions about my whereabouts, they were classic projection. She was accusing me of the very thing she was guilty of. That night, I blocked Amanda on all platforms and deleted her number from my phone. I was done being her backup plan, her safety net, her fool. The weeks that followed were transformative. Once I accepted the truth about Amanda, I found a strange sense of liberation. I was angry and hurt, yes, but I was also free from the constant anxiety of trying to prove my faithfulness to someone who had already betrayed me. I refocused on myself. I started hitting the gym regularly, pouring my frustration into intense workouts that left me too exhausted to overthink. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected during my relationship. I took on new projects at work, earning recognition from my bosses, and setting myself up for a potential promotion. I even started casually dating again. Nothing serious, just coffee or drinks with women I met through friends or dating apps. One of them, Lisa, a new graphic designer at my company, was particularly interesting. Smart, funny, and refreshingly straightforward. We had gone out a few times, keeping things light and enjoyable. For the first time in months, I felt like I was regaining control of my life. I had not heard from Amanda since our breakup conversation, and I was perfectly fine with keeping it that way. Or so I thought. 5 weeks after Amanda had walked out of my life, my phone lit up with her name. My first instinct was to ignore it, but curiosity got the better of me. What could she possibly want, after all this time? "Hello," I answered, keeping my voice neutral. "Nicholas," she said, and I could immediately tell she had been crying. "I need to see you. Please. It is important." "I do not think that is a good idea, Amanda." "Please," she begged, her voice breaking. I would not ask if it was not really important. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her the following day at Lighthouse Cafe. I chose a public place deliberately, both to keep the meeting brief and to prevent any emotional scenes. I arrived first, selecting a table in the corner that offered some privacy but was still within view of other customers. When Amanda walked in, I barely recognized her. She looked exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes, and her normally perfectly styled hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She was wearing an oversized sweater despite the warm spring weather, and she moved slowly as if carrying an invisible weight. "Thank you for meeting me," she said as she sat down, avoiding my eyes. "What is going on, Amanda?" I asked, skipping the small talk. She took a deep breath, then looked up at me with tear-filled eyes. "I am pregnant, Nicholas." Two simple words that felt like a grenade had been dropped on our table. I sat in stunned silence, trying to process what she was telling me. "And," she continued, her voice barely above a whisper, "you are the father." My mind raced. If she was indeed pregnant, and if the baby was mine, that would mean she conceived before we broke up. But given what I now knew about her relationship with Jason, there was an obvious question. "How do you know it is mine?" I asked, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Her expression hardened slightly. "Because I have only been with you, Nicholas." I almost laughed at the absurdity of her claim. "That is not true, Amanda. I know about Jason." Her eyes widened with shock, then narrowed defensively. "Jason was a mistake. We are not together anymore. But you were together. While we were still dating, were not you?" I pressed. Her silence was confirmation enough. "What happened?" I asked. "Did Jason bail when you told him about the baby?" It is not like that, she said, tears streaming down her face now. "Jason and it was never serious. I made a terrible mistake, Nicholas. I got caught up in the excitement of someone new, but I never stopped loving you. And when I found out I was pregnant, I realized what really matters." She reached across the table for my hand, but I pulled away. "So, you accused me of cheating, broke up with me, and now you are back. Because what Jason did not want to play daddy to your baby. The baby is yours, Nicholas," she insisted. "I am about 5 weeks along, which means I got pregnant right before our fight about Jessica." I did a quick mental calculation. The timing matched our last intimate encounter before everything fell apart, but it could just as easily match her time with Jason. "I want to believe you," I said finally, "but I cannot. Not after everything. If you want me to be involved with this baby, we are going to need a paternity test." Amanda's expression changed from pleading to indignant. "You do not trust me. After everything we have been through, you cheated on me, Amanda. You lied to me. You made me believe I was the one at fault. So no, I do not trust you. My voice was firm but controlled. If you want me in this baby's life, we do a DNA test after birth. I cannot believe you would even question this, she said, her voice rising. Why would I lie about something so important? I do not know, Amanda. Maybe because Jason left you. Maybe because you know I am more stable, more reliable. I honestly do not know what to believe anymore. She stormed out of the cafe, leaving me with a hurricane of emotions. If she was telling the truth and the baby was mine, I would step up and be a father. But I needed to be absolutely certain before committing to co-parenting with someone who had already proven herself untrustworthy. Over the next few days, Amanda bombarded me with texts and calls, alternating between tearful apologies and angry accusations. I remained firm in my position. I would support her and the baby if a paternity test confirmed I was the father, but I would not simply take her word for it. A week after our cafe meeting, I was at the gym when I ran into Richard, a mutual friend who had introduced Amanda and Jason years ago during college. He was surprised to see me mentioning that he thought I had moved out of town. Why would you think that? I asked. Oh, Amanda told everyone you took a job in Chicago after the breakup. She said that is why she and Jason reconnected, for emotional support, you know. My suspicions deepened. Richard, when was the last time you saw Amanda and Jason together? Just yesterday, actually. They were at Giovanni's having dinner. They seemed a bit tense, though not their usual selves, so Amanda had lied again. She and Jason were still seeing each other despite her claims that they had broken up. Armed with this new information, I decided to do something I never thought I would. I followed Amanda. For 3 evenings, I parked across from her apartment, watching and waiting. On the third night, my patience was rewarded when Jason's car pulled up and Amanda got in. I followed them to a small restaurant on the outskirts of town, where I managed to snap a few photos of them holding hands across the table, looking very much like a couple still together. The next day, I asked Amanda to meet me again. When she arrived full of renewed pleas about us getting back together for the sake of the baby, I silently slid my phone across the table, showing her the photos I had taken. You want to try again? I asked as the color drained from her face. After a long, tense silence, she finally broke down. Fine. Yes, Jason and I are still seeing each other, but the baby could still be yours, Nicholas. I honestly do not know. Why all the lies, Amanda? Why not just tell me the truth from the beginning? Through tears, she admitted that Jason had initially panicked when she told him she might be pregnant. He had made it clear he was not ready for fatherhood. She had seen me stable and responsible as the better option. She had hoped that by the time the baby was born, I would be too emotionally invested to question paternity. I need to speak with Jason, I told her. Man to man. She protested, but I was determined. I contacted Jason through social media, and surprisingly, he agreed to meet. The next day, we sat across from each other at a sports bar, 2 men connected by a woman's deception. I had no idea she was still with you when we started seeing each other, Jason said after I recounted my side of the story. She told me you two were practically over, just going through the motions. And the baby? I asked. Jason sighed heavily. She told me it was definitely yours, that you two had been together right before the breakup. She told me it could be either of ours, but she was hoping it was mine because you did not want it. We looked at each other, the realization dawning simultaneously we had both been played. Amanda had been telling each of us what she thought we wanted to hear, manipulating the situation to her advantage. She tried to trap me about 3 months ago, Jason admitted. Told me she had forgotten her pill and suggested we do not use protection. I refused. I have been careful every time since. This new revelation painted an even more disturbing picture. Amanda had not just cheated. She had actively tried to get pregnant to trap a man, any man who would take responsibility. Together, Jason and I decided to confront Amanda one final time. We arranged to meet at a quiet park the next afternoon. When Amanda saw us both there, Her face fell. She knew her game was up. "You two talked," she said flatly. "We did," I confirmed. "And we compared notes." What followed was one of the most painful conversations of my life. Amanda finally admitted to everything: the cheating, the lies, the manipulation. She had been seeing Jason for almost 3 months while still with me. When she suspected she was pregnant, she saw it as an opportunity to secure a commitment from one of us, preferably me, since I was more financially stable. "I do love you, Nicholas," she insisted. "I made a mistake with Jason, but I never stopped loving you. Love does not lie, Amanda. Love does not manipulate. What you feel is not love, it is selfishness." I told her that if she wanted me in the baby's life, should the child turn out to be mine, we would communicate strictly through lawyers and co-parent formally. There would be no reconciliation, no happy family, no second chances. Jason made a similar statement, agreeing to take responsibility if the child was his, but making it clear their romantic relationship was over. Amanda left in tears, her perfect plan in shambles. I felt no satisfaction, only a profound sadness for the child who would be born into such a complicated situation, and for the woman I had once loved who had lost her way so completely. The months that followed were a period of deep healing for me. The betrayal I had experienced at Amanda's hands had shaken my faith in relationships and trust. I sought therapy to work through my anger, and hurt learning to recognize that Amanda's actions reflected her issues, not my worth. My friends and family were pillars of support, providing shoulders to cry on and ears to listen when I needed to vent. Jake and Tim made sure I got out of the house regularly, even when all I wanted to do was withdraw from the world. My mom called daily, reminding me that one person's betrayal did not mean I could not trust again. At work, I channeled my energy into productive outputs, earning that promotion I had been working toward. The sense of accomplishment helped rebuild my self-esteem, reminding me that I was capable and valuable outside of any relationship. Slowly, day by day, I reclaimed my joy. I rediscovered old hobbies I had neglected, like photography and hiking. I traveled solo to places Amanda and I had planned to visit together, creating new memories to replace the tainted ones. 6 months after the final confrontation with Amanda, I received the results of the paternity test. The baby, a healthy little boy, was not mine. DNA confirmed Jason was the father. While part of me felt relief, another part mourned. The child I had briefly thought might be my son. I wished the boy well, but was grateful to have a clean break from Amanda's chaos. Around that time, I met Emma through a photography workshop. Unlike my immediate connection with Amanda, my relationship with Emma developed slowly, built on a foundation of genuine friendship. She knew my history, understood my caution, and never pushed for more than I was ready to give. Emma was patient as I worked through my trust issues. She was transparent about her own past and present, never giving me reason to doubt her. With her, I learned that true love does not demand blind trust. It earns it through consistent honesty and respect. A year after Amanda's deception came to light, I was in a healthy, loving relationship with Emma. My career was thriving, and I had regained my self-confidence. The pain had not disappeared completely, but it had transformed into wisdom. The most valuable lesson I learned from this ordeal was not about detecting deception or protecting myself from manipulation. It was about the importance of self-respect. Had I valued myself more, I might have recognized the red flags in Amanda's behavior earlier. I might have questioned why I was constantly having to prove my fidelity while she became increasingly secretive. True trust in a relationship is not about blind faith. It is about mutual respect and honesty. It is about being with someone who values your worth as much as you value theirs. Someone who would never risk losing you for a momentary thrill or selfish gain. Sometimes the most painful betrayals teach us the most valuable lessons about self-worth and the courage to stand up for it, even when that means walking away from what we thought was love. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between preserving a relationship and preserving your self-respect? Let me know in the comments below. And if my story resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to hear more true life experiences, and share with someone who might need to hear this message today. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, you always deserve honesty and respect both from others and from yourself.